Welcome back to Flashpoint. This week, a big shakeup in the battle for one of North Carolina's congressional districts. Congressman Patrick McHenry says he will not run for re-election next year. Right now, he represents several areas northwest of Charlotte, including Hickory and Lincolnton. McHenry gained national attention earlier this year when he became the acting Speaker of the House for a few weeks. He'll leave his seat after serving on Capitol Hill for nearly 20 years. McHenry's exit, though, has opened the door for entrepreneur and Green Beret Patrick Harrigan. It's just part of his latest push to win a seat in Congress. Joining us now is Republican congressional candidate Pat Harrigan. Pat, welcome back to Flashpoint.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So what's your motivation behind your latest run for Congress?
Look, it's the same that it's always been. It's been my kids. And when Afghanistan fell, that's when I got interested in politics. I just couldn't believe that the most powerful nation on earth, the things that we worked 20 years for in Afghanistan, blood, sweat, and tears, could possibly end the way that it ended. And I realized that we had failed leaders who were leading us down the road to failed outcomes in this country. And I look at my two little daughters that I have, Reagan and McKinley. They're 4 years old and 6 years old. They were 2 years old and 4 years old at the time. And I said, we are about to be the first generation of Americans that leaves less opportunity to the next generation of Americans, because those failed outcomes are not just isolated to Afghanistan. They are all over our world and our country right now. And I'm not about to be part of that first generation that leaves the next generation, my kids, your kids, all of our kids, failure. I won't leave them failure.
Do you see that as the result and the failure of both political parties?
You know, to some extent, I do, right? I mean, you look at the state of affairs up here in Washington, D.C., and I think everybody can say that it's an unserious mess. And I really hope to have the opportunity to bring some seriousness to the table here, because we have real problems to solve that are impacting everyday, ordinary Americans, the same Americans that work for me at my manufacturing plant right here in North Carolina, the same folks that I led when I was in the military, and the folks that I'm just talking to each and every day that are so disappointed with the dysfunction that exists in Washington. They are proud Americans. They want to see their country succeed. And it looks like right now we're just throwing the game.
This week, you were running for the 14th congressional district, and then you switched to the 10th district, I believe. How long have you known that you were going to make that switch?
You know, I would like to say, as a good old special operator who specializes in intelligence, that you know, this was all completely our doing, and we set you know, the conditions for us to launch our campaign with, you know, everything that we launched within 30 minutes of Congressman McHenry announcing his retirement. But the reality is that we have an amazing team. We have an amazing team that is focused on delivering results for the American people, the people of the 10th district. And look, the 10th district has always been, you know, our kind of nexus in North Carolina since we moved to Western North Carolina from Fort Bragg when I was a special operator out there. And so we've always had a home on Lake Hickory. This is near and dear place to our heart. My daughters, their entire lives have been in school in Hickory. It's where my wife and I go to church. So, you know, it's as much home as anywhere else in North Carolina has welcomed us in the last 11 years since we came here.
But what do you say to critics who may even be supporters to some extent, but say, well, that just seems slightly cynical at best, that 1 minute you're running for one part of North Carolina saying that you represent them, and then you're saying that literally the next week, no, I think it's the 10th district. What do you say to supporters who might be like, wait, this just seems like a little off?
I haven't had that at all. And honestly, it's because that's where my family and my business and everything that we do in our lives is centered in the Northwest corridor of Charlotte. And so we've been present in this area. We've held property. Like I said, our kids go to school. We are involved and invested heavily in this community. And so, you know, with the lines changing so many times, creating all these different paradigm shifts across North Carolina, I just don't see that argument has any weight. And honestly, I'm not seeing it out on the ground at all. I've been welcomed with open arms, and I'm very, very appreciative of that.
For a brief period, you ran against Tim Moore for the former seat. You called him corrupt, paid for by casino bosses, accused him of having taxpayer-funded sexual escapades. Do you stand by those comments? And could you endorse him? And would you seek his endorsement going forward?
I don't think there's going to be any endorsement on either side moving forward. And look, what I said is what I said. And you'll understand from me that when I say something, I mean it. I'm not going to back down or back away from it. That being said, Tim Moore is an effective legislator. He's done some really good things for the state of North Carolina. But look, my focus is going to be threefold. I'm releasing a broad-based platform in the next couple days that focuses on protecting our country, unleashing our economy, and restoring governmental integrity. And that third piece right there is really, really important to me, because right now we have a systematic lack of trust in not only our government, but our governmental officials. And that is widespread, not just in North Carolina, it is across our country. And if we are to have any respect and any cohesiveness moving forward between Americans, we have to fix the relationship that ordinary, everyday Americans have with their government. And we start doing that by electing principled leaders of character to Washington, D.C. That's what I am going to do in the 10th District. I hope that I can earn that trust, respect, and confidence from the people in the 10th District. And look, I've done it my whole life because I've been consistent, I've been principled, I lived the right way, and they'll have an expectation of me in the coming months after they get to know me that I'm going to do exactly what I say that I'm going to do, and there's going to be no distractions.
You've left one competitive district, possibly for another, because North Carolina State Representative Jason Sain, a colleague of Tim Moore, says he's considering a possible run. He said that this week on social media. Any concerns about him joining the race?
Look, there's no easy way into Congress. I've learned that from the time where, I was going to run in a very Republican district, and the Democratic-led state Supreme Court threw me into a D+22 district against Jeff Jackson. And the journey that we've taken has not been an easy one. But look, nothing worth doing in life is ever easy. And I would say I have a core belief that anybody who has a heart to serve and make this country better should give it a shot. I'm not trying to keep anybody out of this race. I encourage people to come into this race because it provides an opportunity for the next generation of leaders to have a discourse that shows the folks in North Carolina the potential directions that we can go.
You mentioned integrity in Washington, and in the past few months, we've seen a lot of Republican infighting when it comes to everything from picking a speaker to funding towards Israel and Ukraine. House Republicans seem to be in disarray lately with now the slimmest of majorities. Where are House Republicans getting it right, and where are they getting it wrong?
I think that, if I'm to be honest with you, I'm up here in Washington, D.C. now, and I think that both parties are completely dysfunctional, and they actually have symptoms of the exact same problem, which is we are trying to decide what it means to be an American moving forward today, right? We have kind of the traditional side of, folks that just breathe and love this country, freedom, traditional family values. And then we've got kind of this new age, line of thought that is relatively detached, from absolute truth. And I think that you're seeing a country wrestle between those two concepts. And look, ultimately, where I think Republicans are getting it right, I think we've got an excellent Speaker of the House right now who's got a biblical worldview. And look, whether you are religious or not religious, you can understand that somebody with that type of worldview is anchored to a specific path that doesn't allow for deviations that ultimately what that does is provide consistency for the American people with respect to the values, the traditions that we have, and the principles by which we are going to operate moving forward. And I think he's trying to stick to that. I think that he's trying to rally the entire Republican Party and its diverse base around that concept. And I do think that he's gaining traction. And so I'm excited for the direction that Congress is heading. I think it's becoming much more serious and much less unserious. And I look forward to being a part of the seriousness that adds to the problem solving that has to happen in Washington, D.C. over the coming years.
Republican congressional candidate Pat Harrigan. Pat, thanks for coming on Flashpoint. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me this morning. I really appreciate you.
More Flashpoint after this.